Hello, and welcome back to the Padawan Podcast, Apocalypse Movies All Star Wars podcast, where we geek out from everything on the galaxy far, far away. I'm your host, Jake Berlin, a.k.a. Qui-Gon Jake, and I am joined today by my fellow apprentices, I guess you could say. Padawans is a better word.
Fellow
Padawans. Jacob Bartley and Gio Ramos. How's it going, boys?
Going fantastic.
Doing good. It's been a while.
A lot of Rogue One stuff. Let's get into it.
Yeah, basically the entire episode is going to be all Rogue One stuff. So, let's get right into it. So this week, Entertainment Weekly had a full spread of Rogue One news. This is something that usually comes out like a month before the movie, a couple months beforehand now. So let's kick off with the big one. I mean, we've kind of been confirmed, kind of not been confirmed. It's what we've been expected, but the big bad Darth Vader is returning. He's confirmed in Rogue One. It said it straight on the magazine cover that they dropped just a few days ago. It says Darth Vader is back. Kathleen Kennedy and a few others have discussed the role, saying he will be in the movie sparingly, but a key strategic moment, he's going to loom large. That's from Kathleen Kennedy. Also spoken about Vader, his reputation within the galaxy, saying within the rebellion, it's not commonly spoken about. Within the Empire, there is the culture of knowing of the existence of Darth Vader. There is definitely an underlying feeling that there is a power, a dark power, available to the Empire, and that if you overstep your mark, you will suffer the consequences. And speaking a little bit of Vader and Krennic, who is Ben Mendelsohn's character, and their relationship in the film. And Kiri Hart says, who's a head of story for Star Wars, Vader doesn't really play by the rules. He's present in the military structure, but he's not beholden to it. He's not accountable to anybody really except Palpatine. When Tarkin says to Vader to release him when he's choking that guy, Vader does it, but not because he has to. He's just willing to give Tarkin one in that moment. That's part of what makes the reveal of the Emperor, even in the hologram in episode, was that 6? Episode 5?
5, yeah.
So cool because you're like, oh, wow, here's the guy that Vader literally bends to his knee to. What's that all about? That's what Krennic is trying to figure out. How can he acquire that most favored status? What is it between the Emperor and Vader that binds them? So with all the little comments, kind of background information going into the film, and the confirmation of Vader returning, what are your thoughts, Jacob?
I love hearing this. It's funny because people like us, we've known he's going to be in the movie. No duh. But what this does is announces to the public, the general audiences, that Darth Vader is in this movie. You do two things in doing that. You get people really excited about this movie and taking it from, oh, another Star Wars movie, I'll probably go see that, to Darth Vader's in it, I have to see that. And also, you're letting them know it's not a sequel to The Force Awakens and what time period it's going to be around. So I think this is genius of them to do it in a big magazine spread like this. And I love what I'm hearing. It's funny hearing the comments about, I forget the character.
Krennic.
He's
Krennic.
Kind of curious about the relationship between the Emperor and Darth Vader, but the funny thing is, us audiences know it. We've seen the prequels, like them or not, the story's right there. I mean, we don't know what happened from then on. There's stuff in the canon, in the books, in the comics that you can kind of fill in the gaps. We don't know exactly what they've been doing from episode 3 to episode 4. This might cover some of that, and I'm so excited to see it.
Yeah, the stuff with director, I think his name is Director Orson Krennic. I could be wrong on that, but it sounds really cool, and it sounds like they're gonna have an interesting little relationship on screen. Whether or not they're actually on screen together is gonna be, we'll see in December. But it sounds like Ben Mendelsohn versus Darth Vader. I mean, how can you not love that? So that's kind of awesome. Gio, what do you think?
Yeah, the reveal of Darth Vader is not very surprising. It probably will be for general moviegoers, to see a magazine as they're shopping and it says Darth Vader's back. They're like, what? And what's it, Krennic?
Director Orson Krennic.
Orson Krennic. I like that he's seen from an outside point of view. He's someone who wants to get in. And, I mean, careful what you ask for, because Vader and Emperor, they're binded, by the dark side, which... Mm-hmm. Does Krennic know about the dark side?
I don't think a lot of people know about the dark side at this point in the story.
I think he's going to get a pretty rude awakening.
From what
it says they know that there's a dark presence that the Empire can go to.
Yeah, it said if you overstep your mark, you'll suffer the consequences. They know that there's the existence of Darth Vader.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. And I like that Rogue One's going to show a live-action Darth Vader that doesn't play by the rules. We saw a little bit of that in the original trilogy, but I think in this movie it's going to be really amped up. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, and we've heard the rumors for a while that there's a scene with Darth Vader where he's on the battlefield going up against the rebel soldiers, where he's literally using bodies to protect himself. Now the question becomes, is he doing this because of an order from the Emperor, or does he go off on his own to find something or find someone or to...
Yeah, I don't know.
It's all very exciting.
I think we can speculate all day, but it's going to have to do something where, like, the plans are at risk at being stolen, and he's their last hope of stopping the rebels from stealing it. Something like that. And he goes down there to try to stop them. And I don't know where the plans are being kept.
Yeah, I don't
Who
know.
knows?
It's super exciting, though.
Yeah.
All right, well, moving on from a little Darth Vader news, sticking with Rogue One, along with the news that Darth Vader's in the film, a couple character portraits were released of the main cast of the film and a little bit of info behind them as well. So I'm going to read some synopsises of these characters, starting with Felicity Jones as Jyn Erso. It says she's a streetwise delinquent who has been on her own since 15. She has fighting skills and a knowledge of the galactic underworld that the Rebel Alliance desperately needs. Going on to Diego Luna's Captain Cassian Andor. Andor is a by-the-book Rebel intelligence officer brought in to steady the volatile Erso, but he's no square. He's committed, steady, and practical, and has seen more than his fair share of combat. Moving on to Donnie Yen's Chirrut Imwe, pronounced Chirrut. He's no Jedi, but he's devoted to their ways and has used his spirituality to overcome his blindness and become a formidable warrior. Moving on to Jiang Wayne's Baze Malbus. Heavily armored, Baze prefers a blaster to hokey religions and ancient weapons, but he is devoted to protecting his friend Chirrut at all costs. Bodhi Rook, who is Riz Ahmed. Bodhi is the Rebel Squad's lead pilot. He tends to be hot-headed, but any abrasiveness is overshadowed by his skills in the air and the void of space. And moving on to Alan Tudyk's droid character, K2SO. This towering, powerful security droid is described by Edwards as the antithesis of C-3PO. In other words, he's tough, confident, not especially interested in human-cyborg relations, and the complete opposite of a neurotic fuzz budget. It also goes on to say that K2 is a little bit like Chewbacca's personality in a droid's body.
Nice.
So, kind of, going with that. Oh, also, Mads Mikkelsen. We know that he's Jin's estranged father. There's not much on him. He's a nuclear pioneer. We don't have an actual picture of him. They're keeping him quiet for now. And then Ben Mendelsohn. We've heard a little bit about him before. On the opposing side, this is a villain of ambitious imperial I don't know how to say that word, who intends to use his squad of death troopers to pulverize the rebel uprising and ascend in the emperor's graces. So he's kind of in charge of the death troopers. So with all that said and all his characters, a little bio behind him, who's the most exciting? Who are you most looking forward to? Gio, let's go ahead and start with you.
Oh, for me, it's Donnie Yen as Chirrut. The fact that he's blind, but he uses his
spirituality.
Yeah, to kind of help him overpower that. He believes in the Jedi, and what they stood for, and believes that even though that they're extinct, there's something out there that could potentially save them. For me, that's interesting. I love that. And his friend also. What's his name?
Baze Malbus.
Baze Malbus. These all have like unique names, and it's hard to
pronounce. Yeah.
All of them. Yeah. So Baze Malbus. It'll be interesting to see his relationship with Donnie Yen's Chirrut character. These two going together, their relationship on screen. It'll just give them more depth, and I just feel like something bad's gonna happen to one of them, and it's gonna be one of the more emotional moments in the movie. And then lastly, we have to talk about Alan Tudyk's droid character, and how he's basically Chewbacca in a droid's body. That's pretty funny. I can't wait to see. They couldn't have cast a perfect guy.
I could just hear his voice a little modified to sound like a droid.
Yeah,
being very blunt, about stuff. That'll be fun and interesting. And I love it all. They're all different people. Some don't believe in religion. Some believe in Jedi. Some are very blunt. Some are hot-headed. And just seeing them all come and work together, it's pretty much like a team building, movie. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Donnie Yen's character, and it also says it in Baze Malbus, but hokey religions and ancient weapons, and he's no Jedi, but he's devoted to their ways. Is he the Force user of the group?
I think they're hinting that he's Force sensitive, but he's not a Jedi. They've differentiated somebody somebody can be Force sensitive but not be a Jedi.
Ahsoka.
Leia is not a
Ahsoka.
Jedi.
She's not a Jedi anymore either. Ahsoka.
She was a Jedi,
Yeah.
and she still uses like Jedi ways. But Leia is a perfect example, and there's been plenty of Force sensitive people who aren't Force users. So I think he is one of them, and I don't think he can quite connect with the Force like a Jedi can, but slightly and enough to overcome his blindness.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for Riz Ahmed and his character, Bodhi Rook, right?
Bodhi Rook, yeah.
First of all, he's a great actor from what I've seen. He was awesome in Nightcrawler.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
And to hear, and he was like, his character was very like shy and
Standoffish
sketchy and
and,
standoffish in Nightcrawler, but he played that so well. He's playing a hot-headed pilot in this movie. I'm really excited to see how he can play a different role and something different. And I'm really excited for K2SO, the droid, right? Is it K2SO?
Yeah.
I think he's going to be physical and involved in the action because he's tall, right?
Well, we were talking about this earlier. We actually pulled up the trailer. He's actually running alongside Diego Luna and Felicity Jones in the trailer.
I think he's going to be involved in the action.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have such an attitude and like talking shit to people throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
And because he's an Empire droid originally, right?
He
and
is,
then
yes.
he's helping them steal the plan. So I'm like really excited for those two characters, and of course Felicity Jones too.
Yeah, it also says about K2SO that like Jin, he's also seeking a bit of redemption for past wrongs. Droids too can have regret.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
That's definitely interesting. He'll no doubt probably be a scene stealer, especially if he's Chewbacca in a droid body.
Droids are always a huge part of this Star Wars universe, and we're getting a very different droid in this movie, which that really excites me.
Definitely. Riz Ahmed is great. I mean, they all sound really cool. I like Diego Luna, kind of the by the books rebel officer. He's played some bad guys in the past. Felicity Jones sounds great. Continuing though with Donnie Yen and Jing Wen's character, they also released some comments about their character and their relationship along in the EW article. Mm-hmm. And it says, like the original Star Wars, these characters owe a debt to the two peasants from a 1958 Akira Kurosawa adventure saga. They're inspired again by what inspired George in the Hidden Forest. You could even say, to some extent, it's R2 and C-3PO, a little bit of that. Like their connection, and says that Jing Wen's character is the rough and tumble protector of him and so forth, and then also kind of moving on with the Death Troopers and Ben Mendelsohn's character. The Death Troopers are said they are tasked with hunting down and destroying the fragmented rebel uprising, and it's kind of Ben Mendelsohn's own Black Ops style of stormtroopers, where the regular stormtroopers are the ground troopers of the bunch. So. All right, well, moving on to the other character that was released alongside these portraits. Forrest Whitaker's character was finally revealed alongside. They kept it a secret, then they finally revealed it, and it's a character we've seen in the past. If you've seen the Clone Wars TV series, the cartoon that played on Cartoon Network for years, I think it was 6 seasons.
Yeah,
5 seasons. I think they released the 6th season online or something like that.
Oh, a Netflix.
Yeah, I think so.
Season, yeah.
And his name is Saw Gerrera. He was in season 5 of Clone Wars. A little synopsis of the character. Saw was a human male rebel who was active during the Clone Wars. With his sister Steela, he was one of the leaders of the Onderan rebels and helped lead the resistance movement to victory over the Confederacy of Independent Systems on Onderan. He later led a rebel cell Onderan in the resistance movement against the Galactic Empire. He was involved in the mission to steal the plans to the Death Star. We didn't really expect this when they released it, but Forrest Whitaker, you see the portrait, you kind of put him next to the cartoon version of him. It's a very different version, but at the same time, you can kind of see it. So I kind of want to get you guys' thoughts on the connection. Do you like the connection? Is this the kind of connection you were kind of expecting? And do you expect to see more in Rogue One, more connections maybe to Rebels, or possibly even more to the Clone Wars at some point?
I love this. I'm not familiar with the character. I haven't finished Clone Wars. I'm going to. I've watched about 2.5 seasons. But I love this because this confirms that they are not afraid to bring characters from the animated into the live action. Something that I really want to see, especially with some of the Rebels characters. So I think this lays the groundwork for them doing that in the future with a Rebels character. So that's why I really love this. Can't comment on the character really because I don't know who he is, but Forrest Whitaker looks great in the trailers. Like, he's a great actor, and I think his scenes and his performance are going to be the most powerful in the movie. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think the character, I think he'll kind of be the backbone to this team because he has the most experience.
Well, it sounds like he's giving some type of motivational speech in the trailer.
So that's going to be very cool. And, you know, like you said, Forrest Whitaker is freaking fantastic. So to see him in a Star Wars movie is awesome, and especially this type of Star Wars movie. But, yeah, Gio, I know that you probably a little bit skeptical on this and the connection to Clone Wars. I know you haven't seen Clone Wars, so you can't really comment on the character too much, but what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I do like that Forrest Whitaker is playing an already established character with his own interesting history. As we talked about, he kind of trained with Anakin and Obi-Wan, but I mean, not.
He fought alongside of him.
He fought alongside them, definitely. So I don't think there'll be any references. But
that's interesting because that means he knows Vader.
Does
he know that? Maybe not know that Anakin is Vader, but he has some type of past history with Vader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah. So that right there presents an interesting, opportunity to maybe dive into that. Who knows? But
that'd be cool to see to see on screen. Mm-hmm. That'd be really cool
to see him reference I knew a Jedi, a Skywalker, or something like
exactly
what?
Like the greatest Jedi to ever live, or
he
something.
He can be
that.
like letting them know the Force is real. I've seen it with my own eyes. He's gonna say that. Watch.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. So again, it just opens up more opportunities to touch on the mystical, the Jedi ways, the Force, and all that kind of stuff. And I agree that you said he's gonna play kind of like a leader type role, a mentor, that kind of thing. Perfect. I mean, you cast Forrest Whitaker, of course, as a veteran actor. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, like maybe this team, like Felicity Jones and Diego Luna, they're looking for some kind of in to the Empire and some way to figure out what to do or where to go. And Forrest Whitaker's sitting there. They find out his name, his past, and they go to him, and he kind of joins on this mission or whatever. So
you want to do this?
Yeah. Yeah, so, all right, well, moving on to our last topic of movie news, something real quick. With all this news coming out, they also released a batch of some pretty gorgeous new images from Rogue One, and there's 16 of them, a couple character portraits as well, some cool shots of stormtroopers, death troopers, Felicity Jones in there. The death troopers one is definitely the standout to me, obviously, of them storming the beach. So kind of like your quick thoughts, maybe your favorite one. Do any of them surprise you? Do they get you excited in different ways than you have before? Gee, let's shoot it back to you.
Oh, I mean, the shot of the death troopers storming the beach, like, you want that right there is a very war-like photo. Like, you see that, it reminds me of Saving Private Ryan, the D-Day, that kind of thing. I mean, that's not the same thing, but I mean, just to see that, like, these guys are like badass. They're not afraid. They will run into any situation and come out victorious. That's what I'm getting at with this. So that looks very cool. I like the detail in the photos, like of Mads Mikkelsen's character and Felicity Jones. I like the photo of Chirrut. And I cannot get these names down. I'm sorry.
Baze and Chirrut.
Baze and Chirrut. I like that. Like, these guys, they look like they're longtime pals, and they like going on these adventures together, and they're gonna have an interesting brother dynamic to it. That always gets me in a movie. And the stormtroopers look great. They're coming out the water. We've never seen that before. All these photos look great. Ben Mendelsohn's character looks very young.
Yeah, he does.
Like,
he looks pretty sinister, though. I'll give him that.
Yeah,
he does look pretty sinister.
You think about him in A Place Beyond the Pines, or even like Mississippi Grind, and then like you look at this and you're like, man, like they did some effects on him. He looks really young. So it all looks great. If you haven't seen the photos, check them out on apocalypsemovies.com. Like, it looks great. So.
I like them. I never get too excited over images unless it's something like big. But I think we all have this favorite one, the Death Troopers storming the beach. It tells you what type of movie this is going to be, and it just looks so amazing, so beautiful. I love the detail with the water splashing. It just looks amazing. And one more that stands out to me is the droid R2SO. Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. That picture shows you how big he is.
Yeah.
And again, it looks like he can run like we see him in the trailer.
Yeah.
And he could probably like jump and get physical and like we're gonna see him grab somebody.
Well, Gio made a good reference earlier, like kind of like iRobot.
iRobot.
He might grab a blaster.
Yeah.
Who knows? I wouldn't be surprised. So those are the two that stand out to me.
Yeah. All right. Well, getting away from movie news and moving on to our comic reviews. So we have two to talk about today. We have Anakin Obi-Wan number 1 and number 2 to review, and then Jacob is going to get on to Han Solo number 1 once we're done with the Anakin and Obi-Wans. Only Jacob and I have been able to read the Anakin and Obi-Wans. Gio will catch up at some point. He'll catch up at some point. So, yeah, let's get right into it. I read it just about 2 hours ago. Jacob's been waiting on this for a while. He read it a while ago.
I read it about like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, so...
I'm going to try to see if I can remember.
Go ahead.
I remember it for the most part.
Go ahead and start us off.
Yeah, I was interested in reading this because I want to see the relationship of Obi-Wan and Anakin. My biggest complaint from the prequels is that it was supposed to be about the relationship between them. And in every movie, well, the first one, they just meet. But in the next 2 movies, they're splitting up on everything they do. They each got to go on separate missions. And that's I reviewed all 3 films. That's one of my biggest complaints in those episode 2 and 3. So that's why I wanted to read this. And I love these 2 comics so far because that's what we're getting, is their relationship, their back and forth. Obi-Wan mentoring Anakin, not only as a Jedi, but as a young man. And he's only like 14 or 15.
12.
12.
It says it in the prologue. He's 12.
Okay, he's 12, very young still, and still very powerful. And I don't know if I care that much about the story that's going on, like what they're doing on that planet and the mission and what they're helping these people. It's cool, but the main thing that I enjoy from these 2 comics, and I think if you're a fan of both these characters and you want to see their relationship, I think you should read it. And some of the other things that are really cool are seeing Anakin, because there's flashbacks going on, and you see him doing a little bit of training in the Jedi Temple. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to give away this is not even a big spoiler, but he's fighting some type of, I don't know if it's
hologram.
A droid or a hologram, but I don't know how, but he can manipulate what the hologram looks like, and he makes it look like Darth Maul.
Yeah.
And he makes the hologram look like Darth Maul because he has some type of hatred towards Darth Maul because Darth Maul killed Qui-Gon, right? So he obviously has some built-up anger about that, and he turns into Darth Maul. That got me really excited. And seeing how the Emperor is like planting the seeds of trying to manipulate Anakin.
Already.
So those are just some of the few things that I really enjoyed.
No, I totally agree. I think that, number one, the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin is by far the best. That's why you read this.
That's exactly why you read it.
There's some really cool stuff in there. You know, I love going back and seeing that Anakin's struggling with it all. Like in the flashback
scenes.
He
doesn't necessarily want to be a part of
he said,
the Jedi Order either.
Obi-Wan even told me, and he's like, if you're going to do this, I want you to live to be able to do it. Because he's handing him his lightsaber. He didn't want to take the lightsaber.
Yeah.
I kind of agree. I don't know if I'm not invested in the story yet. There's still 2 more books to go for me.
Well, who knows where it's going?
Yeah, exactly. So, but right now I'm totally invested in their relationship. I'm more interested in the flashback scenes right now.
Oh, me too. Every time the flashback comes back, I'm like,
with
yes.
Palpatine and going into the underworld.
That's the last thing we saw is him going into that building with him.
I love, the whole thing with bringing these two, the open and closed. Anakin is kind of the core of bringing them together. That's kind of cool, but again, we've always wanted to see more of Anakin and Obi-Wan together because in the prequels, that was the best thing about the prequels, is their relationship. In all the prequels, in my mind anyway. So it's really cool to see it on comic form. I'm really happy that we picked this up to decide to read it. So I'm looking forward. I'm wanting to read more, and that's all I want.
Yeah, I'm excited for 3 and 4. I've been waiting.
And I'm lucky we're lucky that it's not just a 4 comic run like it was.
It's continued. The 5th one came out.
So it's going to be a continuous run, which is awesome. I don't know if it's going to go 6 or 12 or whatever it is.
It won't go for too long. But just a little insight into their relationship.
Yeah, but I mean, this happens between episode 1 and 2?
Yeah.
So they can do this for a while and maybe go to episode 2 and 3.
In episode 2, Anakin's referencing stuff like, "Oh, I'm gonna save your
When
life."
he
again.
saved him, he saved him like 10 times or something like that. And so there's so many stories to pull from, which is exciting.
And that's that's like a 10-year gap.
Yeah.
So you can make a movie in that time. No, you don't have to. Don't worry, Lucas.
We can get Hayden Christensen back.
You don't have to. No, get a young actor.
I'm just joking. Jake Lloyd? I'm joking. All right, well, moving past Obi-Wan and Anakin, Jacob's going to take over the reins for Han Solo #1. I'm going to read it before next week.
You can
and
give
Han
your
Solo
thoughts
#2
next week too.
Yeah,
why not?
So go ahead, Jacob. What do you think?
Yeah, just real quick. No, I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but this just came out last week. Not this previous Wednesday, but the Wednesday before, and I had to pick it up. I told myself try not to buy too many comics, but I see Han Solo on the shelf. I have to buy it. And I got to say that I really, really enjoyed it. It kind of, my only complaint is it kind of leaves you on a cliffhanger, but every comic issue ends on a cliffhanger.
Well, especially the first.
Because they want you to buy the next issue. So I'm not mad at that. But the one thing, and this is not a spoiler, you could assume that Leia's going to show up somewhere. It's a Han Solo story. And I believe this takes place in between episode 1 and 2. Or
4 and 5.
4 and 5, sorry. Episode 4 and 5, if not in between 5. No, definitely 4 and 5, because we all know what happens at the end of 5. So it's definitely in between 4 and 5. And the best thing that this comic book does is capture the relationship between Han and Leia. The bickering back and forth, the talking shit to each other, and just their relationship and their chemistry is there. They capture that so well on a comic, but in a comic book. And that is one of my favorite things from the original trilogy. Why it's so entertaining is seeing their back and forth and how they kind of hate each other, but then they love each other too. So it really captures that really well. And it's just one of the big things about it is it's Han being Han. It's Han in the underworld being dirty. He tries to go back to smuggling after the events of episode 4. He just wants to go back to smuggling, and he doesn't want to be part of the rebellion. And he gets dragged back in somehow, and this is not a spoiler, but he has to go on a mission, and it involves a race. It's not the Kessel Run. He already did the Kessel Run at this point. But he has to go on another race, which is involved in the mission, and it's so awesome. Get to see a little bit of that. And also, maybe not a negative, but just something that I was iffy about. It's hard to express Chewbacca in the comic book because when he talks in the movies,
you know the situation.
And from his tone of voice, you can tell what he's trying to say. You just see the word, like the writing for the sounds that he makes in the comic book. It's hard to interpret his expressions. But other than that, I absolutely loved it and adored it, and I can't wait to pick up the next issue.
So let me ask you, while you're reading this, I'm looking at the cover right now. Does it kind of look like they're altering Harrison Ford to look like someone else?
Maybe. I think that in any comic, you kind of want to make it look like the actor, especially with even in the Marvel comics, they kind of make them look like the actors a little bit. I think there's some of that going on, but I don't personally think so. And I have not seen Alden Ehrenreich in anything. I've only seen pictures of him, a tiny snippet from Little Caesar. So I don't even, or
Hail Caesar.
Hail Caesar.
Little Caesar.
Somebody's hungry.
Yeah, you hungry, man?
Hail Caesar. So I couldn't say, I'm not familiar with Alden Ehrenreich, but I will say it doesn't exactly look like Harrison Ford.
Interesting. All right, Gio, let me ask you, man. I know that you haven't been able to pick up any of these, but after hearing us talk about Obi-Wan and Anakin, a little bit of Han Solo, are you intrigued by these?
Definitely the Anakin and Obi-Wan, because like Jacob said from the beginning, that's what we were promised. And we get a little bit of that and a little bit of Obi-Wan and, his sort of, fighting the Darth Maul thing. It's like, I can't get that out of my head no matter how many good things I do. I just, that's the one that got away, And with Han Solo, him going back to his smuggling ways, that's kind of what I want to see. I want to see a little bit more of that,
Dirty scoundrel.
Yeah, I just think about how great he was in episode 5. He
amazing.
This
is right before that.
You can clearly see that he was brought back into it, into the thing. He's just like he's walking.
Kind of doesn't want to be there, and he's just talking shit. I love it, and that's what you get in this comic.
Yeah. So yes, to answer your question, yes.
Definitely, that's awesome. Well, next time we'll definitely be reviewing 1 and 2.
Yeah, we'll get your thoughts on number 1, and then I don't know when 2 comes out, but when it does come out, we'll review it.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up the Padawan today. I'd like to thank both Jacob and Gio for joining me. Jacob, where can they find you online, man?
You can find me on Twitter at @JacobBartley_ on this YouTube channel. Subscribe, hit that like button, please.
Gio?
At GeoRamos24 and apocalypsemovies.com. Apocalypse with an X.
You can find me, Jake Bowen, Twitter, Instagram, at Qui-Gon Jake with 2 N's, apocalypsemovies.com every day. Check out everything we're doing here on Apocalypse Movies YouTube channel. Got a whole bunch of fun things going on. Trying to do video reviews as well. Check those out for Now You See Me 2, Conjuring 2, Central Intelligence. I'm sure we'll have some Independence Day and Finding Dory up here pretty soon too. So until next time, may the Force be with you.